What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky, joined by our good friend Tom Telesco. Tom, we appreciate you jumping on with us again here, man. What have you been up to?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Just trying to stay active and busy. Watch some college guys and watching the NFL, and just trying to stay engaged as much as I can.
What do you go back through your years as general manager, Tom? When you're in this time of the season, we're coming down the home stretch. Take us a little bit of behind the curtain here as you're trying to monitor where your team is, and you can sniff the playoffs. You're not there yet, but you can sniff it.
Well, you have to prepare like you're going to be in the playoffs because you've got a pro scouting staff that has to have the advanced scouting of the teams you could be playing in the playoffs. So December scouting from the pro side was always really fun because you send your guys on the road for potential, maybe a team you haven't seen yet this year to kind of get ready for that, or a team maybe you saw early in the year, because that has to be done. If you're in the wild card team, that stuff has to be done right after the last game of the year. So you've got that going on. You're still trying to solidify your roster just as strong as you can make it from the practice squad all the way up, to make sure if there's an injury that happens, you can at least backfill it. So you're always working on that. And then, it's still important, but it's on a little bit of a back burner. Is December is a big month for the college scouts as far as some early meetings on some players, kind of get the draft board. The draft board kind of starts to set itself in the fall, but in December, you can kind of get it moved around a little bit, do a lot of character work, background on players. So there's college scouting meetings that are going on concurrently with the season. And as a GM, you kind of have to have your hand in a little bit of everything. But certainly the team on the field is the most important part of this year. And just making sure you're ready for the playoffs, both roster-wise and just intelligence-wise.
Tom, I want to go to the college side because DJ and I are so familiar with that part of it. So now in the new landscape, before we used to really treat conference championship games, bowl games were like that last look. How do you treat that now when your scouts are talking about conference games, guys not playing in bowl games? Like, does it matter at all? Do you care? What's your state on that?
Yeah, as far as not playing the game, that doesn't matter anymore. But you're right. A while ago, like the bowl games were great evaluation tools for players because they usually have a time off in between their last regular season game and the bowl game. So they're fresh, they're ready to go, and it's usually a good opponent. So it was a great evaluation of the players. But nowadays, so few NFL prospects play in the bowl games, you kind of throw it out. Every now and then you get lucky that, you go to a bowl game and you're seeing players maybe for 2 years down the road. I was at the Holiday Bowl a couple of years ago when Bo Nix played against Drake May. Okay, neither were going to be in that draft. I just happened to be there to look at other players, but most of the NFL prospects that were eligible didn't play in that game. Conference championship games still great, because you're playing good versus good usually. So those are good evaluation tools. And then, for most of the college guys, their reports usually due in, about mid-December, right about now, where you have everything basically done. Conference championship games. Now we'll extend it for these playoff games because again, it's good on good. These are great evaluation views for players, and put the whole thing together and put a bow on it later on.
Where'd you stand on the, whether this is just one other data point or was there more importance placed on what you saw, especially now that we have a playoff? Let's just focus on that, how these guys perform in this setting.
Yeah, you don't want to have too much recency bias, but it's, obviously a little easier. The last thing you see, sometimes you remember the most. But I think it's important. These are big pressurized games. I was talking with somebody the other day about Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard went through the playoffs last year, won playoff games, big leverage games. So that was a great experience for him as a quarterback. So, they're important, very important because, the pressure is there. This isn't, you're not playing at an FCS school. So, certainly a big part of it is just, but you do try and balance the whole thing. You take their whole career, their whole body of work and go from there.
I'm glad you brought up Riley Leonard because it's interesting to watch him in the playoffs. And then last week I was on the field when he got a chance to start for Indianapolis. So, and thinking back to his playoff run and how he played, Fernando Mendoza is going to have a chance. Ty Simpson is going to have a chance. Some of these other quarterbacks are going to have the chance to make a lasting impression. Dante Moore. How do you balance? You talk about that recency bias, but how do you balance these big games? Because they are as close to an NFL game as you can get.
Yeah, that's the great point is these games are like NFL games because of the pressure around them, the amount of eyes on them. They're big and it's you try and take the body of work, obviously, but these playoff games are as much like an NFL. Every NFL game is a huge game. So these playoff games, the caliber of the teams you're playing for those quarterbacks, the caliber of the defenses they're going to play, the amount of time those teams have to have time to get ready, to play, to play Indiana's offense. So he may see some things that he didn't see during the regular season, which is the way the NFL is every week. So these are great tools. Thank God some of these quarterbacks are playing in the playoffs. It just gives you more information.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun evaluation opportunity for those guys. I want to take the bridge from Riley Leonard to the guy who's going to be replacing Riley Leonard. I shouldn't say guy. It's a grandfather that's going to be replacing a Riley Leonard. Philip Rivers, nobody knows him as well as you do, Tom, all the years you spent together with the Chargers watching him play. I've tried to caution people that have just laughed this whole thing off versus saying, hey, I think it was like they're 2 touchdown underdogs at Seattle. I know Seattle's defense and weather. And I'm like, look, the second week is another thing and see how his body can recover. But maybe I'm in the minority. I'm like, for 1 week, I think Philip Rivers might be able to screen his way to a close game up there in Seattle.
Tell you what, I was with Philip for 7 years, Shane Steichen for 8. I should have known better that this could happen. I mean, I was doing a live radio interview Monday morning before any of this broke. I was on with Doug Gottlieb and Fox Sports Radio, and we're talking about Daniel Jones's injury. And he asked me, he's like, hey, do you think the Colts would reach out to Philip Rivers? Mm-hmm. And I gave him one of these. I'm like,
no chance.
He's been out of football for 5 years. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So then I talked about Riley Leonard for a while. I thought Riley Leonard played really well last week. So talk about Riley Leonard, and then I think a couple hours later, it kind of comes out that Philip was going to work out for the Colts. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be the expert analyst. And I had no idea. But I'll tell you what, from a fan standpoint, it's fascinating. When I put my GM hat on, I'm like, it's not just he's playing at 44, it's that he hasn't played in 5 years. So to me, like the Tom Brady comparison is not a comparison because Tom Brady was active the whole time. So, I was just concerned about, the movement skills, concerned about, reaction times. If you're off just a millisecond in the NFL, it's a big difference. Concerned about soft tissue injury or worse. Mm-hmm. But then I watched the press conference yesterday that Philip did, and he had me convinced. I'm like, let's go. Why not? And that's the way Philip is. Like, I'm watching that, and I'm thinking all the reasons why you maybe shouldn't do it. And then I'm like, he's got me. Like, let's go. Let's see.
That's how he plays. That's how he plays. Don't worry about the results. Just go out there and let it rip, Buck. That's just kind of
it's must see TV. I can't wait to watch.
I cannot wait to watch it either, man.
I'm so scared for him. Like, just in terms of like everybody who's ever played anything always believes that they still got a little left. And I'm just worried 5 years away from the game. Philip talked about, I'm not at my playing weight. I'm about 20 pounds heavy. I'm just fearful of him having to move around and something bad happen, even though I love the moxie. I love his gunslinging ways, all of that. I'm just really concerned about him being able to survive a game and then go into the next week and have to play another.
Yeah, actually, like DJ said, it's not just this game, it's the recovery for the next one, the next one for that. It's just, it's going to be hard, but I can't wait to watch it. I really can't.
Yeah, I was joking with somebody this morning that, back in the day, we used to have, you'd have your practice, your 2-hour practice, and we had a 10-minute screen period. I said, this is going to be a 2-hour screen period with 10 minutes of other football sprinkled in there. Well, everyone can get that ball out quick.
Yeah, I mean, their offensive line is very good. Mm-hmm. They have Jonathan Taylor, who's going to get a ton of work, which is a good thing. They've got Josh Downs they can run some screens with. Michael Pittman's there, and they've got Tyler Warren. I mean, he has all the pieces around him. If this is going to work, that can help him. So, I can't wait to watch this against Seattle.
Oh man, this Buck, we haven't seen anything like this, man. And by the way, the Tom Brady thing, Philip's I don't think he's a big avocado toast. I don't think he's, doing all that stuff. I don't think he's sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber. Doesn't really sound like that's Rivers' style.
I do have a question, Tom, like with an older player, because the one thing that Philip has, he has experience and expertise because he's seen everything that they could throw their way. Is it possible that the one advantage that he gives the Colts is their ability to improve their running game? Because he can check in and out things that Riley Leonard hasn't seen. Philip being able to dominate the line of scrimmage in terms of getting them in the right call could be advantageous.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just getting in, 2nd and 12 is not good. 2nd and 6 is good. So just getting it, like you said, out of a bad play, he gets the wrong look, makes a change. picks up 4 or 5 yards on first down. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no more coach on the field than what Phillip is going to be. Literally and figuratively.
He is a coach.
So, yeah, that's what I mean. And with him and Shane, I mean, they're running North Turner's offense. And basically, they can finish each other's sentences when it comes to X's and O's. So, it would be really fun to be on the headsets to listen to Shane. Now Phillip can't talk back on the headset. He can only hear.
You can mic him up, though. He's got to be mic'd up for this.
That would be tremendous viewing just to listen to that throughout the game of those two kind of going through the game plan, in real time.
Yeah, I would imagine with the, all these teams having their own media company basically in-house that they hopefully document this thing all the way through.
Hopefully, but no matter
the way it goes.
I can tell you from experience, he doesn't like being mic'd up. And most quarterbacks don't. Most quarterbacks don't want to do it, don't like it. They all have to do it once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, he's got 4 games left. He's going to have to do it for one of these 4. He must do it for the first one.
Oh, gosh. I hope they do it, man. I want to hear it so bad. By the way, I got asked to play in a high school baseball alumni game. I think it was maybe end of December, 1st of January. I mean, and I just turned 48. There was not even a 1% interest in ever. And this is baseball. This is where you can just kind of jog around the bases or what have you. I'm like, there is no chance. That sounds so unappealing, and I would really hurt myself. I cannot imagine going to play an NFL game at this point in time. It's nuts.
I really can't. Phillip does have a field behind his house, a turf field. So between that and the high school practice field, like you said, he's been actively involved in football, just, not at the NFL, grind level, but he's been actively involved, since the day he walked off from the Colts last time.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned this the other day. My favorite story, and it's a rumor at this point in time, I don't know if it's actually true, is that he had to get his cleats out of his trophy case before he went to, because he wears those special shoes with like Reeboks or whatever, those like old school shoes that he wore. So, oh man, it's going to be fun. All right, Tom, let's get into some of these other teams here and where we are heading into the playoffs. You mentioned Drake May and Bo Nix a minute ago. Man, we've got some second-year quarterbacks, Caleb Williams in that mix as well, who've got, some of the better teams around them this year. I know there was that, it was that Russell Wilson period where Seattle was making that run, and it was the common analysis was, man, when you're not paying your quarterback, it's amazing the roster you can build up around him. And I don't see how this is any different. I look at what New England did in free agency and how aggressive and how bold they were. I look at those other teams, and look at Chicago rebuilt their offensive line in one off season. Denver's just continued to add more pieces on both sides of the ball. And people can, look at other reasons of why this is working. But man, it turns out when you get to pay your quarterback, a few percentage of what you're going to have to pay once his second contract comes, you can build a heck of a roster.
What was cool with New England was, they spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money in defense, essentially bought a new defense, but they spent it on the right players. I mean, it's just like college with NIL money. You can have all the money in the world, but if you spend on the wrong players, it doesn't, it's not going to work. So watching what New England did on defense, I thought on offense, I didn't think they were going to have enough around Drake May yet, but they've done tremendous. They've got 2 rookie offensive linemen. They have Stephon Diggs there. Hunter Henry's having a great year. We drafted Hunter when we were in San Diego, of all places.
Wow.
So that's how long he's been around. But he's just the perfect type style of player for Drake May, because he always knows he's going to be exactly where he has to be all the time, and he's reliable and he's going to catch the football. So, but yeah, they've done a tremendous job. And then watching Caleb Williams, what I like about his situation is he's not being asked to carry the whole offense. I mean, their identity is a running football team, running for almost 150 yards a game. DeAndre Swift and then the Rutgers back Colin Monange. I mean, that's a really 2-headed monster compliment. And then, when Caleb has to pull a rabbit out of a hat and run around and make a play with his big time athletic ability, he can do it. Now he still has to keep coming along in the pocket, anticipation and accuracy. And it has improved. Mm-hmm. But what I like is they haven't taken away his unstructured play. But it's a running offense. The offensive line, like you said, it's been rebuilt. And as a young player, he's not being asked to carry the whole offense. And I can't say enough about what Ben Johnson has done for the whole team, but certainly on offense there.
Tom, I want to ask you, because in talking about the second-year quarterbacks, the guy who is getting a lot of attention has been J.J. McCarthy. He's so polarizing because He was taken early, but he's only played 7 games. How long do you play this out? Like, what's the magic number with starts before you can make a decision to go forward with him? Or do we need to go back and start looking at another option at quarterback?
Yeah, it's been hard with them just because, well, 2 reasons. One, in college, he didn't have the volume of passes those other guys had. It's just the offense that he was in. So, there was still a lot of development that had to take place. But then the problem is he's been injured a lot. Not only the ACL last year, which is basically a redshirt year, but it's not a redshirt year where you can keep practicing. It's a redshirt year where you're just rehabbing the whole time. Then you come into this year and you're essentially a rookie again, but then he's had some other injuries that have slowed him down. So he just doesn't have a big enough body of work yet. You've seen flashes of what he can do. I mean, he's a really good athlete. He's got some moxie to him. He's a leader, but he still has a lot of work to do. So certainly he's going to have all of this year, and I guess we'll see how he finishes as you go into next year. Do you bring in competition or not? They know him better than we do. I still think there's a lot of upside there. It's just that he's just been behind so much with the injuries. And when you're hurt, you can't practice. When you can't practice, you can't get better. So, but there's still enough there that you saw in college. You see with Minnesota, he's got an outstanding head coach to work with. Where that magic number is, I don't have a good answer for that.
I want to get to another quarterback in that group that I don't think has been talked about at all, and partially because he's hurt, and that's Penix. Tom, when you're going through that draft process, it was a big part of the discussion was the durability concerns, and he's been hurt, hadn't been able to finish all these years, multiple, knees. And then unfortunately here we are, and it's borne out here. He's got injury issues. And I guess the question would be, have you think in your career, can you think of times where it's benefited you to ignore some of the injury concerns, and other times where you can look at it and say, man, the signs were right in front of us. Why didn't we heed the warning signs?
Can never ignore it. You just can't. It's when you're selecting players, trying to mitigate your risk on a lot of these. And some of the biggest risk is players with either chronic injuries or heavy durability issues. So it's always talked about at every position. It can never be ignored. It's probably the biggest part of the draft process that nobody talks about and nobody sees. And they shouldn't. You're talking about medical files on players, but it's a big part of it when we're talking about selecting players. So with Michael Penix, there wasn't a lot of downside with his ability. The only issue, like you said, was just the amount of injuries. And there's 2 ways to look at it. You can say, well, look, he's had a lot of injuries in college, but with the things he has, they're all healed. They're not chronic. He'll be fine once he gets to college. Once he gets to the pros, like these aren't going to carry over. But when you have that many injuries, there's a pattern to it. So because when he's healthy, he can play. I mean, he can rip it. He's got good arm strength. He's accurate. He can make quick decisions. He's athletic enough. But if you're the Falcons, I mean, next year, there's no guarantee he's ready for opening day. So they're going to have to probably look at the quarterback market. More than likely, probably the draft. If you really think about it, there's not going to be a lot in free agency. If you look at who's available, there's not a lot. So depending on where Kirk Cousins is next year, if he's still there, or if he goes somewhere else, or if he retires, they're going to have an answer at quarterback. And you can't rely on Penix. Even if he's ready to go opening day, you're going to have somebody else behind him that can play. Not just like a young practice squad type backup, because you just no guarantee he's going to stay healthy.
Tom, I'm going to bring you in to help me with a little homework that I'm doing, because the one thing that you will learn in the media business, people love grades. So I've been tasked with grading the rookie first rounders. Now, you and DJ know that every first rounder there's different levels. Top 10 versus the middle 12 versus the last part. We have different expectations for those guys. As a general manager, how do you evaluate a rookie at the end of that first year? Is it due to expectation? What are the things that you're looking for to see from a rookie over the course of his first year?
I don't get hung up on where the player is picked, and that's the sliding grading scale. I don't get hung up on that. But with all your rookies, first of all, you're looking for are they going to contribute on your roster in year one? That's the biggest thing. Can they find a role? Obviously, with the quarterbacks, it's different. They're probably going to be a starter, but was there development during the year? It's very subjective. It'd be hard to put a grade on that because, like I said, all evaluations are really subjective. You can always blend in the data behind it, but a lot of it's subjective. You want to blend the two together. But if you're looking at your rookie class, like I just want to see guys that earned roles, contributed, and that got better through the course of the year. And the hard thing with rookies, and we're going to see it right now once you get to December 1st, it is such a long season. It's a grueling year. Every week is a tough week. Every opponent they play is a top level player. I mean, you talk about, say, a college offensive tackle. It doesn't even in the SEC, he's not going against NFL rushers every week. He's going against some, but not every week. In this league, there's big time rushers on both sides every single week. So trying to get used to that pattern for the young guys, and as you move into December, but you just want to see objective improvement, I guess, as much as you can.
Is there a position where you thought more patience was required than others, where it's just the learning curve there is so great? Is there one that stands out to you?
Well, certainly quarterback. I used to think it was receiver, but there's been more receivers that have come in early and contributed early. It used to be as a receiver, you come in, there's just a big adjustment period. There's so many things going on pre-snap that they have to know, and then post-snap as far as adjusting routes. But I think, honestly, with the advent of so much 7-on-7 in high school in the summertime, and colleges throw the ball so much more than they used to a long time ago, that transition is a little easier now. But certainly quarterback, and then to me, the second would be offensive line. There's just so many techniques and tools of the trade that you learn that just takes time and takes development over a number of years. So those are probably the two positions. Defense, a little bit easier to probably transition. You can always fall back to see ball, get ball, but I say offensive line and quarterback.
That was always my thing. DJ, what was your challenging position as an evaluator?
For me, it was in terms of challenging position. For me, it was always safety.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Safety was always hard, just because
O-line was always hard for me.
Yeah, safety's gotten. I'll tell you what, the batting average on safety. I don't know this would be a good question for Tom of how you watch it, because used to be when we were all growing up, we were all taught, hey, 4 games. You need 4 games to make an evaluation on a guy. So you got to watch 4 games, and I can watch 4 games. You can watch 4 different games. We have totally wildly different opinions. But with the ability to cut up the tape now as efficiently as we can, like safeties for me personally, like I've seen what I had a lower batting average previously. Since I've been able to watch all the cut ups, so to see an entire season of key plays all the way through, I don't do that for many positions, but the safety position I do. And I found out I'd rather watch an entire season of key plays, basically a hit tape, versus, randomly selecting 4 games for a safety where he might be in the parking lot, not seeing the action the entire game.
That's the thing as safety is there's a lot of snaps where they're just not involved. So I agree with you. Like you need a lot of games for a safety to really feel good about your evaluation, probably more so than any other position. But the fun thing with safeties is, and plus the safety position has really evolved in the NFL right now. I mean, you have to be able to tackle and play the run game almost like a linebacker, but then you have to be able to cover like a corner. So there are obviously the good ones are very hard to find. It takes a really wide skill set, but it does take a lot of games at that position just because, there's a lot of times it's a too deep safety. He's just backpedaling and nothing's going on in front of him. He may not have a run support responsibility. So as far as the amount of game tape, it takes a lot. And then with the offensive line, I was the same. When I first started scouting, offensive line to me was a bit foreign. And when I was with the Colts, I sat down with Howard Mudd, who's one of the best that's ever done it as far as offensive line coaches. And I learned so much from him, not just sitting down with him, but just spending time with him over the years when I was in pro scouting at that point, and just learning all the things that he would look for in that position. And now I feel like I love doing offensive linemen. I love doing centers. Centers to me are really, sounds kind of nerdish for football wise, but I love watching centers play, the leverage, the quickness, the pulling, the movement. So most of the stuff I learned on offensive line play came from Howard.
I think what's interesting about offensive line more than any other position, what actually plays and sticks in the league is so different. When you're a college scout and you're on the road, you have this ideal of what plays on Sunday until you're in the league for a while. And you're like, this guy's an 8-year player. There's just so many different things that can enable an offensive lineman to have success, because some of it is the cohesion with their buddies and how they utilize their neighbors on the inside and their intelligence and all that other stuff.
Yeah, the key to me is always, especially with offensive linemen, because there's no perfect lineman. Like they all have a little weakness somewhere, and trying to decide, all right, he has a flaw. Is it a fatal flaw that is probably going to really limit his ability to play in the league? Or is it a flaw that we can kind of get over? And those are some things when you're watching, say, a really athletic tackle who has some problems anchoring with his lower body strength. Well, okay, we have to decide, is this a flaw that he can get over with a little bit of technique and teaching, or is this a fatal flaw where he just is not going to be able to anchor in the NFL? And that's what scouts get paid for. That's what we all get paid for, to try and just figure that out. Because like I said, there's no perfect prospects. They all have their flaws somewhere. You have to decide which are fatal and which are livable.
No doubt. I want to change gears here as we're getting ready to wrap up, Tom. Was having this conversation earlier today about these 4 defenses: Houston, Denver, Seattle, and the Rams. 4 elite defenses the way they're playing right now. I want to ask you to rank them, but I'm just curious, is there any through line there when you look at the way Houston plays defense, the Broncos, Seattle, and the Rams? What is it those guys maybe share as for the preeminent defenses in the league right now?
Talent.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, really, all 4 of those, keep it simple. They play fast and physical, and they get people around the ball, and they rush the passer. And then in the passing game, when balls are completed, there's not a whole lot of run after catch. I mean, you've got multiple people with the right leverage, really limiting that. And just watching the Texans the other day, I mean, their secondary is outstanding. I love Jalen Petrie. He's one of those players, like, he's outstanding in the run game. His speed for the position and coverage is probably average, but he's got such great instincts that he can kind of overcome that. And then Kalen Bullock can just cover so much ground. In center field, they have 2 great corners. So, but yeah, those teams are really loaded talent-wise. But I think it's the speed of what they play and the physicalness and the aggressiveness, but not making mistakes with it. Like, a lot of times when you play overly aggressive, you overrun a play or, something like that. But it doesn't seem to happen with them very often. They're in the right place at the right time. And as we get into the playoffs, you got to have defense, especially when the elements start, creeping in. So, but those 4 are, by far tops in the league.
I want to tag that real quick because it was going through, and we talked about this, Buck, on a previous episode. We were talking about with Houston investing in their front to be able to win with 4. But then pairing that up with a bunch of guys with ball skills. Both those safeties coming out of college had a ton of production and ball skills and awareness. You look at the corners that they had with Lassiter and obviously with Stingley, guys who could really, really play the football. They've married that up well. And we kind of go through the rest of these teams. They're in the exact same boat. They all have ways where, Denver will send extra rushers, but they can win with their front. Oh, yeah. And everybody in the back end can find and play the ball. I mean, Seattle, you saw with Reek Wool in his first year. Now, he hasn't approximated that same production, but Witherspoon can really, really play the ball. We're seeing it with Eamon Wari kind of getting his hands on balls as well now. But to me, it's interesting, Tom, how they've married those 2 things up really, really well.
Yeah, not only that, but having more than just perimeter rush. They have an inside rush. Like, Zach Allen is outstanding. Seattle has a ton of inside rushers. So getting that inside, whether it's push or winning a gap. So when the edge rushers come up the field, the quarterback can't step up. He's got nowhere to go. But yeah, I mean, they're really well constructed, all 4 of those teams, and then obviously well coached.
I think the thing, DJ has talked about it a lot, is the thing that kind of changed over the course of our time as scouts. DBs that can legitimately tackle. Tackling is now evaluated at a premium, where before guys would be like, oh, he's a cover corner. You cannot play with a guy that does not have tackling skills in this league. All those teams that you talk about, great tackling teams, it's rare that those guys miss one-on-one tackles in space.
Yeah, because if you're a corner who can't tackle now, offenses, they're smart. They're going to target you. We're going to run to the perimeter. We're going to force you to tackle. So that's why it is hard nowadays. If you're a pure cover corner, but if you're, 5'9", 5'10", 180 pounds, but run 4.3, but you have a hard time in the run game, then you become a target for the offense. So those days of having those nickel corners that are cover only, that, hey, don't worry about the run game. Well, look, you're playing nickel most of the game anyways. That nickel has to be able to tackle, has to.
They'll bring him in. They're going to bunch it up, and they're going to leave you unblocked and block everybody else and say, okay, it's all you. You want to do this? You really want to see this 220-pound back? Let's see what you're all about here.
And that's been the advent of so many teams, so many teams playing cover 4 and 2 shell, try and take away the explosive throws. So offenses are smart. Like, look, if you're going to play 2 shell, then we're going to start running more power. We're going to come at you in the run game. I think that's why we're seeing the, more run plays now than ever. it's a cat and mouse game the whole way between offense and defense. But hey, look, we're going to run more power. We're going to come at you. We're going to make you tackle from the inside.
Yeah, and I think, DJ, what's happening is because of that, we're running the little guys off the field. It's hard over the course of a season to have a 5'9", 175 nickel make tackle after tackle over 17 games. It's just hard to physically hold up if you have to be incorporated or implemented into the ground game.
Unless you're Rondé Barber.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Unless you're a Hall of Famer.
There's a couple of those. Winfield, was one of those as well. He was not scared of that.
But they're few and far between. They're hard to find.
Made no doubt. Hey Tom, this has been fun, man. It's always great to catch up with you as we kind of get towards the spring. We'll hit you up because we want to talk about some of these draft prospects. I know you get a chance to dig in on that. From a 30,000 foot view as you go out the door, though, is there any initial takeaway you have from what we're getting ready to see in this upcoming draft class?
It's always, first of all, it's always quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right now, like at least high, it's a lot of defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've kind of noticed. Number one, quarterbacks wise, I was just looking at the teams that are going to need quarterbacks and the amount of quarterbacks that are available either through free agency or the draft. It's not going to line up with supply and demand. So that's going to be really interesting. I think there's going to be a ton of activity in the top of the draft because, we'll see who comes out and who doesn't. Now with NIL the way it is, quarterback can stay in school, get more development and get paid and maybe, get ready for the NFL for another year. So we'll see who declares first. But just off the cuff, looks like a really strong defensive draft, number one.
Yeah, that's where I am in the process too. Lots of defensive linemen. So it's going to be fun to get into those names with you as we get a little bit closer to the spring. This has been a fun one. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We'll be back. We'll have another preview episode coming up tomorrow with Bucky and myself. But Tom, you're the best, buddy. And we'll get you back
Thanks,
on
guys.
here as often as we can. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
There you go. That's it. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.